It's the Taking It On Show with Paula Price. With your host, Paula Price, taking on the issues, representing Jesus Christ, unapologetically truthful, taking on popular opinion. And now, it's your host, Paula Price.
All right, come on, give God some glory.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Lord. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Hidden Secrets in the Attic. This is a special broadcast, and you don't want to miss what God is about to do up in here on this day, because I have a special guest, Chief Apostle Dr. Paula Price is with us today, and we're going to have some fun talking about the attic. So you don't want to forget to share, because sharing is a must today. So go ahead and hit that button, share, share, share. This show is a special show. I first want to tell you, though, she's my mentor. She has been my mentor for 18 years. It's a long time, y'all. And she's my chief apostle, and she's a good, great friend of mine. I call her one of my best. She is my best friend. So I'm so excited that she joined me today. I told her it was her time to be on my show anyway, but this was a good week since we're taking it on with Paula Price and making sure that we're pushing season 2 for Paula Price. So this show is dedicated as a fundraiser for Dr. Paula Price, and we are so excited that we're going to see many funds come in all week long for this show, because it's time to get her spread abroad through this world, not just through this city, but through this world. So don't you forget to hit that button to donate today. We're going to be talking about that. Dr. Price is going to share more about herself in just a moment and more about what's going on. But I do want you to know we have a special 1-hour edition of this show, and a lot to be said. So I'm not going to talk real long, but I'm going to make sure you know what's going on. And you are going to make sure one more time to share. But as you're sharing, give. You know, come on, give, not later, but right now. Some of you are saying, oh, I'll take care of it in a few days. But if it's already on your heart, do it now. So, first of all, I'm going to let Dr. Price introduce herself and tell us a little bit about herself, and then we'll go forward.
Well, by now, you probably know me. Where am I? I need to think, because I'm used to having a hand, please. Excuse me. So by now, you know me as Dr. Paula Price. I'm best known for being the author of the Prophet's Dictionary that has been out 600 pages, 1,600 terms. It's been out for over a decade. We've hit over 100,000 copies, sold probably more by now. And so it's a very popular book. And it's popular because it does something that we needed, and that is defines the prophetic. And what you can't define, you can't standardize. And if you can't standardize something, you can't uniform it. So that they require each other. Let me just sip a little water here.
She's been on for several days.
And I'm only getting started.
Yes.
So anyway, and then also there's the Prophet's Handbook. I am the founder and president of Price University here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm also the founder of the Paula Price Success Center, which is really all of our passion, because the Success Center gives you the soul to succeed. And so there's a lot more information. If you go to takingiton.com, you get to find out why we're raising funds. We're raising funds for season 2 of Taking It On with Paula Price. Now, season 1 is up there, and everything we did yesterday and everything that we've done so far is also up there. So that by the end of the week, you will have almost 2 seasons of Dr. Paula Price in the different venues and in the different ways the Lord uses me. So go there. When you do, you'll get an opportunity to say, hit a button that says, I want to partner with you. And when you partner with me, you get to take on the issues that I speak about. I take your voice to the world. I take your voice to all the nations. And we deal with issues that you wish you could talk about or you wish you had answers for. And now you'll have it because you have me. We have fan club, we have viewer circle, we have producers, what do we have? The fan club.
Broadcast
We have the
Network.
broadcast network, which is for those of you who have ministries and organizations and you want to be a sponsor. Your organization will sponsor an episode of Taking It On with Paula Price. Often it's with the subject that you're interested in, so you get a voice in it. Many of us don't realize that not only do we have the ear, the audible voice, but everything speaks. Even where you put your seed, where you put your money, speaks. And so you might want to be one of those organizations. Let's say you have a prayer group, you have a prophetic company. Let's say you have a church. We can go just that simple. Or a business that you want to get the name out for. Then we do that. That is the broadcast network. We'll tell you more about each of these. And then there's the big one, which is the host VIP. You get all of that. You get the fan club. You get the viewer circle. You get producer circle. You get the broadcast network. You get all of that and 50% off one course. You get your name as a show sponsor. Let's say your family name. How about this? What if you're having a family reunion or something? It can be commemorated in the show. You can get your family together and say, you know, we're going to sponsor an episode of Taking It On with Paula Price. If you pay it in full then and meet the other qualifications, you can have a segment highlighting your business or ministry on one of my Taking It On shows. So while I'm going to the nation, you're seeing to it that I get there. We're not just talking about broadcast here. We're also talking about taking it on the road.
Yes, yes.
Bringing Taking It On into your world, into your community, if that's something you have, particularly if you're a broadcast network sponsor or host VIP. So you need to go to www.takingiton.com, click Partner with Us, and look at this. If you want more information, we have people to talk to you. 877-419-1299. And when you call, you can say, listen, while I have you on the line, could you give me a prayer? And we will pray with you. So I wanted to get that out again. Taking It On, Season 2. You can be a part of taking it to the air and on the road.
So we're going to make sure we remind you about what we're doing and why we're doing it and what you need to do to be a part of it as we go on through this broadcast. But remember, share and give. Share and give, because this week until Saturday, we're going to remind you of that, because you say you want to be a doer. Let's be a doer by doing something, okay? That's what we're going to put into motion this week.
Yes.
So as we're talking this week, we're going to remember to also ask you to put your questions online in the comment section so that we can answer some of those questions. Dr. Price is going to make sure she answers those questions, and I'm going to be here taking notes to make sure I get all the details, those that I don't know. But we want to hear from you, the hearers that are out there. Come on and talk to us today. So remember to sow into the page, remember to give, and remember to share. So in this segment of Taking It On today, we're going to be talking about our theme, and our theme is Taking It On in as far as culture goes. That's what we're going to be hitting as far as culture. So our addict topic this week, we're excited that we're going to be talking about taking on the controversies of titles. Taking on the controversies of titles. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that a real controversy?
Oh, that is a controversy, and I'm an example of it in my life, because I've had it in my life for many years where people said, why do we have to call you pastor? Why do we have to call you apostle? They did not like that, and they've had a controversy to say, you're just a friend. Why do I have to call you that? You're just my friend. So, we're going to be hitting that subject, and it's a subject that I just love. I want her to talk about it because she's the expert in my life regarding this title. I think she's the expert in the nation, in the world, but that's my decision to make, okay? But I remember to share, many church leaders and many congregants, they need to be listening to this. That's why we're telling you to share, because we want to get this out. We want to get this where people will understand it and understand the scripture that goes behind it. So tell your pastor, tell your apostle, call up that person who is your prophet and say, you better listen to this. Here's the rest of the story on titles. The controversy that's out there, we're going to clear it up today.
So what is their issue? I mean, when you say controversy, what are they controverting?
Oh, they have issues on that title.
That's the word
being used. Yeah, they're
Contra against
controversy.
verb.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that, they have this issue. For myself, I started out being called a pastor as a minister, but my issue back then was, my friends don't have to do that. I mean, why do we have to do that? You've always called me Sally. Just call me Sally. Mm-hmm. But when I would get in the pulpit, everybody said, I think that's disrespectful. Mm-hmm. So the issue was, when do they stop calling me just Sally, just because they were my friends for 82 years, So I had to learn not to just hold my titles in the attic, and because I was afraid to talk out loud about it. So I was afraid to use my title. I would tell people, okay, just call me that. But does this sound familiar to you all? When Dr. Price begins to talk about this in detail, you need to ask yourself, that may be
what
me.
What is my issue?
Oh, yeah, what is my issue?
Well, the couple of things that we have to know, the breaking down of titles has gone beyond the church walls. You call your boss Bob, you call your supervisor Jane, you call your trainer, because we're in the era of familiarity, which I think is no mistake that we're dealing with familiar spirits, because we're in the era of familiarity. Now, when we decide to go into our professional environments and our professional world and decide we want to have friendship terms or friendship terminology for our supervisor, first of all, it's misleading. Mm-hmm. It's misleading because not everyone finds respect something that they fall into easily.
That's good.
So we don't want, it's human nature not to want to respect anyone. That's a very deep-rooted norm in us. It is human nature to not want to give anyone higher regard because we want to see ourselves as equal to whoever we're with. So we want to do what I call lateralizing everything. We make everybody across the board lateral. That is part of the problem why corporations and businesses are having difficulty with their workers, because you bring them in on a friendship platform, you bring them in on a buddy pass, and then you want them to respect you enough to do their job without giving you a difficult time. But they feel like, I'm just like you, because the whole idea was that we would lateralize and give people the impression that we're all equal, and we're not. So that was a great experiment starting in about the 80s, late 70s, 80s. That was a great experiment that we're now seeing the fruit thereof, because when we introduced it, the people understood why.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't make it, proper, but they understood. But by the time you get to the third or fourth generation, they don't have a clue. So they don't know that there are lines of authority, lines of accountability. All of that is erased, which is why you have so many workers come to work and say, what? Why do I have to do this? Because you don't have lines of authority. Now, your managers may have it, and they have it for paycheck and positioning. But they still haven't learned to use those lines of authority to persuade workers that they are in their life for more than just someone to aggravate them or someone to embarrass them, And then we had that disrespect fed on down the line when we came up with all of this movies and entertainment. Take this job and shove it. You don't have to tell me what to do. And so now when we look back in retrospect, what we see is that was a cunning design to take down order and structure and to demean authority. That was an amazing thing. So we see that, so you walk by, you say, hey, Bob, and then, and everybody says, hey, Bob. And if that's your choice, that's your choice. But you need to understand that no word is without significance. And you need to understand that the people on your level understand that you're doing it for some sort of perceived or conceived expediency. The people beneath you don't. They don't know why you are Bob the CEO, because you're not Bob the CEO. You're the guy that occupies the upper office. You're not Janice, the president of the company. You are the woman that occupies the upper office. And so when you walk by, nobody really cares. And when you push on their will, because leadership is not just about getting things done through people. Leadership is persuading a person to submit their will to your way and cooperate with you achieving a goal or an end. See, because before you can get things done through people, which is a classic example or classic, you must persuade them to literally turn their will over to you, to agree with you. And all of that, people are getting hired today not because they agree, but because they need a paycheck. And when their ego is higher than the paycheck, they're going to tell you all, and they're going to go and get another paycheck. Why? Because this deterioration has been taking place for over 4 decades. We're over 4 decades till we finally get the generation who does not know the system, does not know order, and does not know structure. I had the privilege, and I say privilege, I had the privilege of addressing a group of young people in one of the college clubs here in town, and there's the business sector. And as I was talking with them, I said to them this word, and I think you need to know it too. I said, the professors are feeding you an unreality that you won't meet when you get into the workplace. Now, I'm not the only one to say this, but since I have this mic, I'm going to say it. And so they feed you an unreality. They feed you all of these trendy statements and all of these things that they have kind of contemplated in their last retreat, that they feel they couldn't change the world the way they want, so they keep passing it on to the next generation, so that deterioration of structure, order, establishment, and all of that eventually happens, which will bring the collapse of a land. So we first collapse the institutions, and we do that by collapsing the authority, the lines of authority and accountability. And so this is very more involved than I'll ever be able to cover on this land. But let's say I've laid that foundation. Now let's go to the church, where the church has always been an emulative institution. Unfortunate, but it's true. The church is very emulative. It does not... it's supposed to be the light of the world, supposed to be the salt of the earth, supposed to be the royal station of the Almighty in the earth realm, but it isn't. The church has always been emulated because it's always been populated by largely insecure people. And if you're populated by largely insecure people, then you're led by insecure leaders. And if we're not going to extract our identity from the Almighty, from the Lord Jesus Christ, who delegated us this wonderful position in his planet, if we're not going to draw on that, or we're going to settle for the world's difficulty with Jesus Christ, then we become emulative, which means we do what the world does. That's why the church looks like the world today, because it's largely populated by inferior souls who don't have their own identity, or who have shunned the Christ identity and chosen to take on, or I would say resume, the identity of the world. So now, now we remember emulated. The churches, a lot of pastors are that way. Pastors are like, well, I went to a meeting and they said so and so we're doing that. Well, they've not tested it. They've not tried it. They don't know if it works. They don't even know if it was successful for the person who shared it. But it's an emulation. It's an alternative, because emulation is based on alternatives. It's an alternative to the Word of God. It's an alternative to the Lord Jesus Christ. And it plays right into the devil's hand and works well in his take-back plan. So now we come there, and the pastor said, well, no, I'm not going to call you pastor. We're not using titles, because we went to some secular thing and they said don't use title. And so that becomes a doctrine. Because the church is emulative. So that becomes a doctrine. And so we have a bunch of books written on why we are the same. Well, God doesn't love you any more than he loves me. A professional position is not about love. That's good. It's about qualifications. It's about eligibility. A professional business is not about love. It's about a product. It's about a profit. But we have turned everything into the family home setting, because that's the other thing. The church has made everything about the local congregation, and they have established the local congregation as a parallel to your domestic household. But do you know in your household you use titles? Hey, Mom, Dad, Uncle, Aunt.
That's right. You
use titles in your house, and you won't use them in God's.
That's a good way.
Most of you, now you have a few kind of, rebels, the little, flower fluffy folk who think every institution should be abolished because nature, they're reading it differently. But for the most part, you use titles in your house. Why can't we use titles in God's house?
That's good.
And you don't call your daddy mama, unless, of course, you're part of the new trend of things that we're, okay. But you have titles. As a matter of fact, you live your whole life, you get married or you begin to come together, you produce a child, you look forward to being called mom and dad. You look forward to it. And when your kid's growing up, you just say, yeah, Bobby, come on, baby, Bobby. But you say, Mama, Dada. You are giving them title consciousness. And yet you say titles are useless. You call, and you know you're not going to the judge and not say, Your Honor.
Okay.
You're going to do that. You go to the hospital or the clinic and you call your doctor, but you won't call your PhD pastor or leader doctor.
That's right. That's right.
Or your doctorate holder. You won't do that. And you know why? Because the issue is that the flesh cannot stand God's supremacy or superiority. You have to train your flesh not to be offended by the very things you applaud in the world, but encounter in God. Because you are taking on Satan's offense. You're taking on his envy. You're taking it on. As a matter of fact, I was reading in the Bible, some commentator did, I can't even remember the guy's name, but it was a very good article. But I was reading in the Bible and talking about how Jesus responded to the way people called him. Son of David, that's a title. It's a lineal title, but it's a title of royalty. King, he's our king. He's our Messiah. You take away Jesus' title as Messiah and you got every Jesus on the planet.
Well, there you go.
So titles differentiate you from the crowd, the norm. So when people walk into a church and everybody says, hey Bob, hey Bill, hey so-and-so, folks, the newcomers don't know who the pastor is.
That's so true.
That's good.
But let's go beyond this. Because we went through this in the hippie movement. We get rid of labels. We get rid of titles. You know, the little Woodstock folk, they still off of there. We still at this tear down the institution, tear down, etc. Because I don't want to come up to it. Because I don't want to be accountable to it. So I always check motives. When I meet a rebel, I need to know I want to know. Don't you want to know? Because see, you jump on board a sentiment and don't understand that you may be being converted or enlisted as a weapon.
Wow, that's true.
So I want to know. See, I have never been one to say, I would never be in a mob. Because I'm like, why are we pushing? Why are we fighting? Why are we upset? I need to know. Because I need to know if I need to invest my energy and my cooperation in that. Most people don't. Most people just say, well, they pushing, so I'm pushing. They're shoving, so I'm... See, that herd mentality.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. It's a herd mentality. And so now in the church, we took on that emulative spirit and you couple that with the herd mentality and you don't have to call anybody. Okay? Like let's take the one with Jesus, the one they love. Well, you call no man your father.
Oh, yeah.
But Jesus called his mother.
He certainly did.
I mean, is that one of the few times in Scripture that women got the edge? Or was he talking about something else? Like the early pre-Christ bishopric, where the word before it became episcopos, it was papas. So he's saying, don't call these religious leaders your father. He was dealing with an institution. Because Paul comes down and talks about you got one father in the Lord, or you got many fathers in the Lord, or many teachers, and we talk about that all the time. So is the Bible confused, or is the editing and the excerpts confusing it? Because we have to ask ourselves those questions. So what is a title? A title is literally the label or the name of a position. For example, your first name is a title.
Yes.
Your whole name is a title. It is the title of a being, you, an entity. We have to call you something. The word son is a title. Daughter is a title. Isn't that
Good.
interesting?
Yes, it is.
Children, title. Title of offspring called children. So we really don't explore what we jump on the bandwagon for. We just seize every opportunity to dismantle what's God, to demolish his strongholds, and to emulate the world. So a title is literally the name of a position. And instead of saying receptionist, phone answerer, coffee getter, mail opener, message taker, we give them a title called receptionist. And when you do that, then someplace in the company's documents, there's a list of what that title does.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's good.
So you can have a 40-page job description for an executive, but who's going to remember it? And those descriptions are very fluid. There are some standards, but then there are some variations. So you use a title as an abbreviation of a work duty or a position or authority. So it's an abbreviation of a job description, abbreviation of a position description, an abbreviation of the authority and the accountability, but also the expectations you can have. So when I say I'm a doctor, you don't expect me to come up and quote law.
Amen.
The term doctor weeded out everything else about us. So you come to the church and you need the pastor to pray for you. Or you need, because I'm always getting the thing about titles, because titles establish, title is the name of a position, because titles literally is a nomenclature of a fictitious entity. Your church is called a fictitious entity, which means it has no flesh and blood, has no flesh and bones, but yet it operates as an organism. So all of the titles are like the children that are named. You name your children in your household. You put titles on the positions in your fictitious organization or entity. See, that's a little different than I'm just trying to have an ego trip. Now, anybody can take up a title if you want to, but a title is supposed to do some very important things. It names who you represent. It names what you do in that representative capacity. It notifies people that you are outside of the normal common population. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And that you have the right, you have been legitimized in getting into their affairs, directing their behavior, etc., etc., etc. You get the point, right? That's what a title does. So when you, and the same way with the corporation, you take this situation, but Miss Ann makes these cookies. I mean, these are the most awesome cookies in the city. People line up at her apartment for these cookies, and she makes a good living. She gets enough money to, literally pay her bills, keep her life going, to finance her lifestyle. One day in that line is someone called Board of Health. Because somebody took a cookie home and ate it and then right after they ate something poisonous and blamed the cookie. So now, Miss Baker is liable for that person's ill health. And the Board of Health is saying, if you're going to continue cookies, we'll decide that, you need to create a fictitious entity. A legal entity that says you have a right to make cookies. And if you're going to do it, you're going to do it according to our model, our standards, our criteria.
That's good.
Otherwise, you continue to bake cookies, we're going to arrest you. Because we, the government, have not sanctioned your cookie baking or selling. And we need to be able to police your ingredients, to police your recipes, to police your methods. we need to be able to say that you meet the qualifications, at least the minimum qualifications, to make a safe cookie. Now, only one person got sick, but that's all it took.
Right.
So when she does that, she goes to her trusty state agency and she says, I am going to incorporate myself or create myself as a business. I'm taking my organic self and I'm putting it into this fictitious entity. And this entity is going to take the weight and the responsibilities as well as the repercussions of my product. From the ingredients I choose to the pots and pans and the materials to the methods and everything that gets a cookie from my flour bin into somebody's house. And from then on, she is behind that entity, and that fictitious entity is now the one blamed for the bad cookie.
Yes.
Now, when she does that, she meets those criteria, she pays her fees, she now does it, and in order to do it, she must give herself something. Does anybody know what that is? She must give herself a title. All of these people fussing about Christian titles, the IRS has a title for them. And they file their papers in the name of a title.
Yes, right.
And they're glad to, because the title eats up some of the liability. We need them.
Yes.
Eat up some of the liability. So as we go forward in our conversation today, I want you to understand a title is more than something that you have to respect and hate having to respect.
Yes, that's good.
A title says that you go into a hospital, there is this guy, he's wearing jeans, he's got a ponytail, he's got a plaid shirt on, and he may or may not have a stethoscope. But you know what? You're not going to go to him with your problem. You're going to go to the guy with the scrubs on. And you're going to assume he's the one wearing the title of doctor. And when that guy, you go in the emergency room and the doctor, hey, my name is Ann, and I am your doctor for the time to take care of you here, and you really don't even worry about it, just call me Ann. But let me tell you, when you have a problem, she gonna pull up Dr. Ann.
Oh, yes.
So that's why it's misleading for people to tell you that they don't matter, because you can only defend yourself in the name of your title. Because it is the title that told people what you can do for them that the rest of your population or community cannot and ought not do. So titles authorize.
Yes. And you all grabbed something on that, right? I mean, I just couldn't write because I'm up here with her right now. But wait till I replay. Okay, you got me? Okay. This is awesome. You got to remember, this is Taking It On with Paula Price, the Webathon fundraiser. And you need to give. She has just given us loads of information on this subject titles. Now you feel different. I know you do, because I do again. And I wanted to remind you, too, that in her book, Divine Order for Spiritual Dominance, that is an excellent book for you all to go and purchase on drpaulaaprice.com. This book has changed my life on this topic of titles. A section is in there. Please remember to get that book. I want to put that plug in. But on this day, what we're doing as far as the fundraiser goes, we need to make sure that we're clicking on Partner with Us. All of you that want to give, all of you that want to donate, please go right now and click on Partner with Us on www.takingiton.com. Now, if you need to call and ask more questions, feel free to call 877-419-1299. You want to come on and donate. Donate to the fan club, $100. Donate to Viewer Circle, that's $250 a month. On Producer Circle for $500 a month. Some of you, that is not hard to do. Do not tell me you can't do it, because you can. Come on and give. On the Broadcast Network, that's $800 a month. And Host VIP, for all of you that are Host VIP, $1,000 a month. Come on and give. You know that it's worth it. We want you to remember all week, hit that share button, but also hit that give button on www.takingiton.com. So, we're going to let her continue, because she is on a roll up here. You notice I'm shutting my mouth because I want her to get it all in. We're not going to play this subject anymore on titles, because you're getting some understanding, right? You know, it's professional. It's not just love. I love you. I really do. So, Chief Apostle, continue on.
Well, titles take you out of the mundane, takes you out of the community, and puts you in the realm or the sphere of a profession. Professional services. Titles also separate you, the professional and the specialist and the expert, from the amateur. So there are a lot of things, but what I want to say as I'm moving forward is that titles also suggest, not always the case, but suggest that training and development has gone forth. That the person wearing the title, which is the shorthand of a job description or position function, has actually been trained and developed to perform what that function is, whatever the description is, and to do so at least satisfactorily. So when you are wearing a title, you ought to be able to give satisfactory service at the least. But the assumption is that the organization that entitled you or appointed you to a titled position has taken all of the necessary steps and precautions to make sure you are safe. That its consumer, its clientele, its user base is safe with you, which is why when you mess up on your job, they fire you. They don't just fire you because you made a mistake. They fire you because you become unsound for their patrons.
That's true. That's true.
Now, in the church, we don't like titles because we don't want to be excellent anyhow. Remember, the church is not trying to be good at its job. It's trying to have an opportunity. It's trying to express and exploit or exercise its gift. But being good, that's not it. That is not it. So when we get it all the time, people enroll in school and they say, you got homework? Now you go to a new job and you get homework.
So true.
Especially if your job is of any type of consequence. You get homework. You go through training. They're going to give you 50 manuals that you can't even fit in your car, and you're to know them in 10 days. And you know what? You know them in 10 days. You know why? Because you have an incentive called a paycheck.
Wow. That's true.
Now, let's take this a step further. The church is not interested in having titles because they don't know what the job descriptions of the titles are.
Oh, true. Yeah, there you go. That's true.
We don't have that, but I bet you the IRS has it.
Oh, they do.
I bet you government officials have
They
it.
do.
You don't know. And so when someone comes up and says, I'm a pastor, they can pretty much get away with it because this is the person standing up every Sunday over a congregation. If they say I'm an evangelist, usually you have a pool of people out there that you're speaking to and trying to win to Jesus. When you're a teacher, well, come on, you have a classroom. So we can readily identify why these titles exist and who the objects of this service are. Not the case so much with apostles and prophets. You ever notice that people are ready to call you a pastor, and you take a pastor's word for it that they're a pastor? Because you don't have the job description. You don't know. So a person goes to sleep, wakes up the next day, God called me to start a church. And you immediately throw the title pastor on there. No training, no proof, no verification. There's nobody to verify or corroborate that God visited them in their room or prayer closet and said, you're going to start a church. And so they start out and then they end up getting a few folks, you know, the loyalists, my family, my friends, etc. They come, and when people come to church, they want to call somebody pastor. Likewise, the evangelist. When it comes to the prophet and the apostle, the two offices that founded this thing, we've got title problems and title issues. And you have title issues because the pastors have told you that apostles and prophets should not exist. Number one, and if you run across one, don't acknowledge their title. Because titles define offices, and titles define official functions.
That's good.
Official means at the behest or at the appointment of an institution. So yeah, if you're running around as a gift, we should call you Linda, Bob, Sam, Sally, Eve, Joe, because you're running on a gift.
Yes.
But if you're talking about exercising the official functions of an office, then we need to know who entitled you. On what basis did they entitle you? And who is supervising your discharge of the office? You go to work and they may call you Jane and Bob at your level, but trust me, you didn't get hired as Jane and Bob. You got hired by your title. And they said, oh, you fit the qualifications of what I'm looking for. So then you become Rachel, the executive assistant.
Right, there you go.
Now you went to the interview as Rachel. But you're leaving and you're moving into the company as executive assistant. And so they have a whole category, they have a department for you. They have a category of service. They have a classification of employee. Then and this thing, it literally trickles down. We don't think like that in the church. All we think about is anointing.
Yes.
So he says, so anointed. How do you measure anointing other than your response to it? And if you're not an expert or a specialist, who can trust that? Because you're measuring anointings by your experience.
That's true.
Not by their expertise.
Subject by itself.
No, you said we weren't coming back.
Okay.
So you got it headed lower.
Oh my Lord. Are y'all enjoying this?
Yeah,
I'm just so
yes.
excited. Oh my gosh, she's clearing up a lot of questions. I had 10 questions. I just keep turning the page because she's just answering the questions as I go along. She's peeping over here.
No,
Okay.
I'm keeping it back.
Okay. Yeah, she's all in the spirit. Okay. So I have this question though. If titles go with the office, isn't it out of order for a person who says that they're no longer in a pastorate role or in an apostle office? They are no longer. That these are people that, say, I'm no longer an apostle. But people still want to call them that title because they've been a pastor for 25 years. Is that out of order to do that?
Well, it depends on whether or not they cease to be a pastor but still attached to the organization.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like saying when you leave a job, you still keep that title. And people should call you that because that's who you are.
Right.
I think that there are a lot of people who do that for the sake of respect and honor for their long service in that position. And so usually in the business world, particularly in the academic world, they call them emeritus. In other words, you're not a professional any longer, but you are being respected as one who has merited certain regard and certain, even your title.
Right.
You are respected as that. That's a debatable issue because people still say, because you'll get people say, I don't care, you'll always be my pastor.
Oh yeah.
You get those people, but that still has nothing to do with the professional function, etc. And that person needs to let it be known that this is like a legacy title,
Okay. Okay. Legacy.
not an occupational one.
That's good.
So a lot of these pastors who have served well, and they need to be respected. Because if you confess survive the sheep of Jesus Christ, glory to God. But so a lot of them are using these are legacy titles, but they're no longer in active service. So they are inactive titles.
That's good. Okay.
We are honoring you. But the occupational title, that's something else.
Yes. Now that is something to think about. Because I know that I have people right now that don't understand that concept and they just bash that person for still being called pastor. And yet understand it in the way Dr. Price has said, we can do this.
Yes, it becomes a term of endearment.
Oh,
Yeah, that's good.
now that's good.
It becomes a term of endearment. You served me well. When you were my pastor, you did a great job. And I never felt, I don't feel comfortable flipping over to your first name right now.
Ooh.
Like if you leave a school as the principal, you have to leave the title because the titles belong to the office. and the office belongs to the institution. I'm going to say that again. Titles belong to the office, and the office belongs to the institution. I'm going to say it one more time because somebody needs to get this.
Yes.
Your title is not your personal possession. Your name is your title.
Wow. That'll work.
The title belongs to the office, and the office belongs to the institution. Your gifts are named. You can say, and until you are put in an official capacity, you can say, I sing. If you say I'm a singer, then there has to be some sort of institution that's verifying that you're a singer, that is supporting you and placing you as a professional singer. In other words, you sing.
Wow.
You dance.
Yes.
You know, you do math. You cannot walk around and say I'm an engineer because even though you've been trained, you say I'm trained to be an engineer. But until you are somebody's engineer, and not just your own engineer.
That's good.
Not just your own engineer. Oh my.
You freelance, that's a different story. But then if you freelance, you still have to have some sort of institutional construct to get paid.
That's good.
To be trusted, to be sought out. You have to be accountable. Life is about accountability. We don't like that. Even if you decide that I'm going to ignore titles, you're accountable to the rebels against titles.
My. That's so true. I want to make sure if you all have some questions that you'd like to ask Dr. Price, come on and write those down. Or if we already have some, we want to give those to her right now. Come on, any of you in the audience or anyone that has a question, we'll let Rachel go ahead and
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Why are we doing this?
Yes.
Taking it on with Paula Price. I just took on the controversy of titles. And that gives you a wonderful opportunity to go to takingiton.com, click partner with us, and decide whether you want to be a fan, a viewer, a producer, broadcaster, or VIP with us with the Taking It On with Paula Price show. Now, if you, either one of these, when you go there, everything that we've been reading to you is on the site. You can read through it and say, I want to be a fan, or I want to be in the viewer's circle, or the producer's circle, broadcast network, or the VIP. You make that decision. But what if none of these fit you, but you're still touched by what you just said? Hey, sow a one-time gift. I want to sow.
Yes.
I want to literally give a one-time gift to this broadcast because it so helped me. It so enlightened me. It so informed me. Because one-time gifts are usually because of the broadcast or the information that you just got. So if that's the case, then make it a significant gift. Stop being the one that sows God $5 and $6 and $10. Press, because what you got today is way beyond what's in your bank. I can say that because I know.
Yeah.
It's way beyond, the worth of it is way beyond what's in your bank. But more importantly, there is a passage of scripture that Paul says, and God says it over and over again. He said, don't muzzle the ox that tread out the corn. That means don't make this ox gather all of this corn, take it to market, and not let it even get a meal off of it. Because they used to do that. They wanted the weightiest crop they could have, so they would put a muzzle on the ox. Make the ox work hungry, work without reward.
It's good.
So when Paul said that, he said, don't muzzle the ox. Don't defraud and don't starve the priest or those who work God's altar. A second statement he makes is he said, if you got something spiritual from God's people, because God's materiality is spiritual, then you need to reciprocate with something material. In other words, if you got something from God's world that was beneficial to you, then you need to give God's agent or representative something from this world.
That's good.
And that is why we're doing this. Because you hear people say, well, I know some of you all have been programmed so poorly by pastors who did not want you to give their money to anybody but them. So they talk you out of taking care of any of God's business. When you sow and broadcast and shows or ministries like the one that God gave me, you are helping God fend off the enemy, fend off lack, fend off. That makes you a warrior. You know, we think spiritual warfare is just walking around yelling, ta 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 ta. But no, spiritual warfare is turning God's spirituality into materiality for his use in the planet. God does not need your cash. He's sending you the power to get it. He said the Lord gives you power to get wealth. So he doesn't need your cash. But what he does need is your muscle.
That's good.
He needs your muscle. He needs you to push back. He needs you to take up his cause. He needs your advocacy. That's a different thing.
That is a different thing. I love the way she expressed that. So don't forget to give, share, give. Giving is important. She's getting ready to take it on to the world. And all these topics that she's hitting this week and she's going to be hitting from this day forward and has been hitting, you need to get that out there. You can't talk it maybe, or your pastor or your apostle, but God has a vessel here that wants to take it on. So let us support that. Come on, get on your button right now. So if there are any questions, I know we're coming to a close here in just a moment.
Get on your button.
Yeah, come on.
Get on your button.
Get on your button. Come on here right now. But if you have some questions right quick, come on and let's ask some of those questions. Rachel.
Question is, what are the results of a church that has a culture that doesn't require titles?
It's a very casual church, because typically churches that don't require titles are also casual about a lot of things. One thing about an official knows that they are a guardian. They know that they are a keeper of the whatever that assignment is. So officials think differently, but they also think differently in realizing that no matter what they feel, how foolish they think it is, an institution is, or a standard is, they recognize that there is something in the followers, something in the patrons that will misunderstand it, will not drop that title and still maintain respect, but that to them the title is the respect and vice versa. So you'll end up with folks saying, well, you know, we're all the same. Because isn't that what it's all about? That we're all the same. That God doesn't love you more than he loves me. No, but he may have endowed me more than he endowed you. He may have anointed me for what I have to do. He may have given me talents or abilities, you know, more than he did you. Why? Because titles are not about your emotions and not about your romantic life, family life, domestic life. Titles are about getting something official done in the name of an entity.
Yes.
That's what it's about. So the reason you go to work, you may fall in love with your boss, but it doesn't matter. They're still your boss until we change that. So nobody cares about this emotional thing that we keep trying to make stuff. This is all about professionality. It's about who's protected. It's about what's being prevented, but it's also about who's to blame.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Very true. Do you have another question there?
Mm-hmm. You want to get, because we don't have the mic over there, so talk very loud.
My question is, what would be the consequences of people who don't observe the titles in the church? What would be the consequences of them not taking on or respecting the titles that God has given to the apostle and prophet?
Well, people don't respect a lot of things. Church, work. You're going to have the people who are disrespectful. That's just the way it is. So the decision falls to the leader as to whether or not we retain them or release them. Because if you feel like that structure maintains the infrastructure of the Almighty, because God has an infrastructure. We got Gabriel the Archangel. That's a title. We got Michael the Archangel. That's a title. God says his ministers are a flame of fire. That's a title. So that's the infrastructure of God's realm. And he sent them to us because he wanted us to have them. One thing a title will do is keep you cognizant of why an official or a person is in your life. So as long as you keep saying Dr. Price or Prophet so-and-so, you understand that when a need for what that title represents arises, you're already in relationship, or at least in the proximity of the one who can perform.
Yeah,
That's good.
You know, even in school, we go to school, they still say Miss so-and-so, Mr. so-and-so.
Yes.
Why? Because they know that the kids are confused because they call their classmates by their first name. And they want to make sure that this child knows that there's a difference between their classmates and that teacher.
That's right.
that's
Exactly.
good.
Exactly. Don't forget, you're
Uh-huh.
giving to Taking It On with Paula Price, takingiton.com. Don't forget that. That's what you're going to be giving into. I'm going to let her have some closing words, and then we're going to take off.
How many words can I give?
You got about 2 minutes of words.
2 minutes of words. I want to leave you with this thought. God used titles. I know you say we don't, but they called Jesus by his first name because he wasn't in the rabbinical college. Because they called the rabbis rabbi. As a matter of fact, when they understood what Jesus represented and what he brought to earth, they called him rabbi, teacher, master. They gave him a title because when you're good enough, people will give you a title.
Yes, they will.
And if they give you a title has to find an institution. That's just the way it works. You know, I often say that about people who tithe and don't tithe. I said, if you are waiting for God to help you conceive, give you a child, you need to tithe in that child's name. Because everything in the earth has to find a name. Every name has to have a body.
That's good.
Because that's how God does it. So when you think about the Lord's structure, if God's structure matters, then it will matter to you. Don't be surprised that the world tore down titles. The world works at tearing down everything Christian, everything Christ, everything Jesus Christ. But it behooves us as his family, as his offspring, as his ecclesia, which is an institution on earth, to guard and keep that which has been entrusted to us. See, one thing about it, we'd have a lot less roaming prophets and roaming ministers, etc., if they observe the principles and the customs of entitling, which is training and then a higher authority in verifying you and then laying hands on you to put you in place.
That was good right there. My goodness.
I thought I'd stop on something.
Yeah, you get to hit it.
A little bit of a cliffhanger there.
What does that mean? Dr. Price. All right. Well, let's just give God a praise for this wonderful apostle, chief apostle, Dr. Paula Price. She has been great today. The controversy of titles. Come on and make sure that you share that button and give on to takingiton.com. In Jesus' name, we love you.